Chapter 4. Astrid and I followed Anila into her red and white palace. The place reminded me of a red velvet cake with frosting. The palace was crawling with soldiers and servants, all of whom had the paint on their faces. One soldier, a young, tall guy, walked up to Anila and said, "The Bethel's just arrived at the stables, m'lady." "Thank you, Commander Reese." She smiled at him, maybe even blushed a little. "Bethel's?" I asked the Queen. "Ever since Rockney's death, his vehicles have been shutting down. He's not around to do whatever he did to power them." "Oh, so we'll have to ride Bethel's?" "Probably. They're just like horses, only red and scaly. We're bringing them in from the other side of the island and domesticating them." Astrid took one of my hands. "Where are we going?" she asked Anila. "The archives. There may be information about those red birds." We went down a staircase and into a doorless round room. It was full of books. None of them were on shelves, and instead sat in piles on the floor. Some piles were waist-high, others even taller. We navigated the maze of books until we reached a pile in a far corner. Anila started browsing the titles on the spines. "Why did you come straight to this pile?" I asked. She looked at me over her shoulder. "It's the section for the wildlife on the island." "Oh." She grinned and turned back, searching. She found one she liked and pulled it from the middle of the pile, causing the other books to fall. She ignored them. She browsed the pages quickly, but sighed a minute later. "Nothing about red birds." A book fell somewhere behind me. I walked over to it, while Anila returned to the pile she'd browsed earlier. The book was open, and I gasped when I saw what was on the page. "I found it." Astrid and Anila joined me as I picked up the book and showed them. It was the exact same bird, with red wings and a very sharp, blade-like beak. The words on the page were written in a language I couldn't understand, but Anila could, and she didn't like what she read. "Oh no."
What?
Astrid and I said together. "The birds belong to Dargonius." "Who's Dargonius?" I asked. I remember Rockney mentioning him, but he didn't go into detail. He said he would tell me more about him before he died. Anila nodded knowingly. "He was the one who hid the island from the rest of the world." "Where did this island even come from?" I asked. Anila smiled. "My father told me once that the island used to be a young woman who wanted to hide from her family, so she turned into an island." I smiled. "Do you believe that story?" "No, but it's fun to think about. I loved it as a kid, and I guess I still do now." "Why is it bad the birds are Dargonius's?" Astrid asked. The Queen took a deep breath, flipping the book around for us. "Dargonius fled the known world because he believed it to be corrupt and dangerous. He hated the world because of its blind hatred toward his kind. He was a wizard." "And the real world drove him off?" Astrid asked. "Yes, he fled to this island." "How did he get here with the waterfall that separates us from the mainland?" I asked, thinking of the edge of the world. It was the biggest waterfall I'd ever seen. "That wasn't there before. He put it there, and the outside world can't see it. It does manage to keep people away, though. Well, except the natives." "How did the natives react?" I asked. "Not well. They tried to kill him, but he fought back with magic. Then they feared him. Then they accepted him." They pretty much had to. Anila grinned at me.
In time, they worked together to hide the island from the rest of the world. Everything seemed fine at first. For hundreds of years, Dargonius lived on this island, hatching a plan to get revenge on those who drove him away.
Hundreds of years?
Astrid said. The ones who drove him off had to have been dead by then. Yes, but Dargonius's anger was geared toward the whole world, not just those people. He wanted to hurt everyone who didn't live on the island. That's when he came up with the dark dream.
What's that? I asked, after she paused dramatically. Anila had a flair for the dramatic.
A disease, she said,
reading from the book.
He planned to inflict his dark dream upon the known world, sparing the island. This was his paradise, his home. Nothing else mattered.
Did you know about this before?
Astrid asked. I knew about Dargonius. We were all taught about him in school, but I didn't know about the plague he'd invented. I just read about it here. He died before he could unleash it. I guess they kept that out of the curriculum.
It's unleashed now, I said. He planned on using the birds to spread the disease?
Possibly. He created them to be carriers because the creatures native to the island died as soon as they were infected. They obviously couldn't be carriers.
Those birds have been down there for 100 years?
Astrid asked. It seemed so.
Where was Dargonius buried? I asked Anila. She shook her head.
No one knows. He just disappeared.
How many birds do you think shot out of that well?
9,
she said, smiling self-consciously.
I counted them.
Maybe we can capture them all before they infect anyone else. I shrugged.
Hopefully. I'll send troops out now with nets and weapons. We can't afford to lose any more people. There are a little over 100 of us now. We're on the brink of extinction.
I nodded, remembering the battle with Nauki's small army that wiped out so many of Anila's people.
Anila smiled. Come, time to get to work.